In the last lecture I mentioned that we have different ways of styling the application. Let's style this button differently. In the app.js file, which is where we have that button, I want to style this button with something which is called inline styles. There's nothing wrong with using CSS files and classes, and this might even be the preferred way. But what you also often see in React apps is that you actually design your styles in JavaScript. How does this work? Let's go into that render function and create a new constant which I'll name style. The name is up to you. This is a JavaScript object, and as you might be aware, the CSS style properties have JavaScript representations. For example, background color, camel case instead of a dash, because background color like this would be an invalid JavaScript property name. You could wrap it in quotation marks to use it though. I'll use the camel case representation though. And then I assign a value, which is a string, which can be a color. For example, white. We can also set the font to inherit to use our surrounding font. We can also set a border, not border color, just a border of 1 pixel, solid, and then maybe blue. And we could also add some padding, maybe 8 pixels. Make sure to wrap all these values in quotation marks because we are writing JavaScript here. This have to be strings. Now I can go to the button, put on click into a new line to make this a bit easier to read, and add a style property. This is actually the normal style attribute made available by JSX. And style, as you can already see, should receive a dynamic value here. I'll simply pass style here, referring to this style constant, which is defined in the render method, of which this return expression here is part. So I can't just use style like this. It's not a class property, it's a normal variable, or actually, since we never change it, constant of this render method. Let's see if this has any effect. If we save this, we indeed see the button looks different now. We can improve this a bit more by first of all fixing this error and have 1 pixel of a border so that this style gets applied to, and setting the cursor to pointer so that we get this pointer cursor when hovering over it. If I now save this, we see that blue border and we see that cursor again. Now it doesn't change upon hovering, and actually styling that hover effect is pretty hard when using inline styles. This is one restriction already, but I got a whole module in this course where I show you some clever solutions to styling React components, which really can be something you can put a lot of thought into it. Always be aware, you can use a CSS file though. Then the styles defined here are global. So if we change button here, all the buttons in our whole app will be changed. So this might not be what you want. But on the other hand, you can use the normal CSS syntax. Or you use inline styles as you do here. Then the styling is scoped to the component or to the element you actually added to. But you have some restrictions of not being able to leverage the full power of CSS. As I mentioned, I'll have a full module about this because there is a golden way in the middle where you can scope styles and still use all the CSS features. More about this later. For now, be aware that we got these 2 different ways of styling at the moment. Use inline styles as we do here whenever you want to scope the style and make sure it only applies to this single element and to none other element in your app or even in the same component.